Good morning. I hurt my back really bad this weekend. I'm not quite sure what I did, but I cannot move. I cannot sit. I cannot stand. Nothing is comfortable. So hopefully we can get through this without me screaming out in pain. We will be starting the Survivor game. We weren't going to start today anyway, but hopefully if we can stay on task, we will be able to start either on Wednesday or Thursday. I have figured out how to incorporate our 4 tribes into Survivor, and actually, to be truthful, I like it better than last year's game. So this is a nice diversion. Okay? So what I want you to do first is to turn to your neighbor and review the major government types. Those are from the chart that we had. This is important to do because you will be having a quiz over these types on Wednesday. So anarchy, monarchy, democracy, all of those, please turn to your neighbor and review them. Pause this video while you do that. Okay. So our goal today is to distinguish between the various forms of government, and in particular the presidential and parliamentary democracy. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to review the types of government, and then there is a postcard activity that Mrs. Meester is going to hand out. Current events are going to be due on Friday, and then on Wednesday we're going to talk about the different types of government. So let's get to our review. Okay. So a lot of times what you do for types of government is look at how the rule is done. Who is in charge? If there are many in charge, that is a democracy. If one is in charge, you could be a dictatorship, you could be an absolute monarchy. An oligarchy is ruled by few. That's an aristocracy as well, and a rule by none. So let's kind of go through our terms again. Just to review, the absence of new of law and order is an example of anarchy. It is the lack of any type of governmental control. It's lawlessness. So during the French Revolution, there was anarchy. There was not anarchy in our country during our revolution. We had a strong enough base at Independence Hall that we never slipped to anarchy. But when the French went to their revolution, people were killed without consequences. Somalia in Africa is in anarchy. Some people might think Syria is, although when I typed this, I think last year, I think that Syria is more in control than it used to be. Okay, so let's take a look at the back side of the chart. I know that you guys did your constitutional governments, but let's look at the back side of it and fill out that little chart. We're going to use this Fryer method to talk a little bit about it, and then I will review it. Okay, so the definition of a unitary government is that the key powers are given to a central government. So for example, you can have a unitary republic, a unitary democracy. It means that all of the powers are given to a head government. Okay, but you have to have a word that follows unitary. It can't just be a unitary government, because actually no unitary governments exist today where they are just solely a unitary government. Ancient Greece might have been a close one, but if you remember, ancient Greece was also an aristocracy or an oligarchy. So unitary must be combined with another word, okay? It's centralized. There are states and local entities, but they have absolutely no power. All the power comes down from the central government. It is not an example of a dictatorship. It just means that it's a unitary republic. It's a unitary whatever. So I kind of have this picture because all the power is held in the hands of the government, and then the power is distributed. To me, the opposite of that, I'm going to flip. To me, the opposite of a unitary government is a federal government, because a federal government divides or shares its power between the different kinds of governments. It's like it's a waltz. There are 2 levels of sovereignty, and they're shared. So obviously we have a federal form of government because we have a national government that has certain responsibilities, but we also have state governments that have certain responsibilities. So for example, we know that all driver's license, hunting licenses, occupational licensing like teachers and cosmetologists, doctors, lawyers, all of them get their license from the state. Education is fundamentally a state issue, although the federal government can have some things. So examples of federal government would be the United States, Canada, Germany. And if you would go to Google and put federal type of government, you're going to see a lot of countries show up. Non-examples would be things that they don't share the power at all. Okay, a picture that I have here is, the arrows going both ways. Okay, seeing the word federal in it, we might think that the word confederacy has something to do with that, but a confederacy is a loose union of independent states and countries. The characteristics of a confederacy is that it's kind of like a league or an alliance. This is where the states are supreme because the four characteristics of a state are all there, but what power is given to the government is approved. So if we take our island nations and you guys choose to give up part of your sovereignty and join together as one nation, that could end up very well being a confederacy. If you agree that the four corners of the state, which I believe one of your states did, you are joining into a confederacy. Obviously, we know that we had the Confederate States of America under the Articles of Confederation. The United States started out as a confederacy. Some people, you'll notice I have a question mark, believe that the United Nations is a confederacy. It doesn't really have sovereignty, so I don't really buy that example. There are no modern examples in the world today, so this is a zero. Let me restate that. There are no modern examples of a confederacy today. It is a very weak government that is very difficult to control, and therefore a lot of states do not choose this because of the sheer lack of power. So as you can see, each state has its own four characteristics, but they decide to share power between them. Finally, we have the constitutional government, which you did on the front side of this worksheet. A constitutional government means that it is a government limited by or having a constitution. It is extremely important that you understand that it is limited. Okay? It is oftentimes, see, constitutional monarchies, republics or democracies, there are definitely characteristics. Constitutional means that more than likely the power is in the hands of the people. So there are lots of examples of constitutional government. The United States, Great Britain, Canada, France, and the opposite of having the people in charge, of course, would be China and Cuba. Okay, so I have this example of either a president or a king, and you have the Constitution limiting them. So if you look at your chart, you can see that the United States is many different things. It is a constitutional government, it's a federal government, it's a republic, it's a democracy. We are different kinds of things, okay? Just to kind of review, okay? It's a city-state, a unitary. No unitary governments exist today. The federal government divides the power between the national government and the states. The confederacies share power between the sovereign nations, but maintain its own independent sovereignty. Constitutional governments has written or unwritten documents that limit its power. Okay. You filled the front side of this, and so I just want to make sure that we review it. The purposes of a constitution places limits on the government, and we went through this kind of thing. It sets out the ideals of those bound to believe in. It establishes a structure, and it says it is the supreme law of the land. Written examples of constitutions are the United States, France, India, Italy, and Switzerland. Unwritten examples are Great Britain, because it doesn't have one constitution, it has many. The framework of it is that it sets out a plan, 3 branches of government. It sets out how your national government works with the relationship that it has with the states and how it amends the Constitution. It has a mission statement, usually called the preamble, okay? And the preamble is, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union." This establishes our thoughts and our feelings about our Constitution. And finally, it defines and limits the extents that the government can do. And as you can see, I have the term habeas corpus here. So an example of a limit on our government is they can't just throw us in jail. They have 48 hours at the maximum before they have to charge us or let us go. That is habeas corpus. Mrs. Meester is going to hand out a postcard activity. It's a worksheet that you are going to complete. It asks you to read a little bit about each government and decide which type of government it is. There's so many choices, so I want you to talk also a little bit about what factors into choosing a government. Why does a government choose a dictatorship over a democracy? Remember that on Wednesday there will be a quiz, basically kind of just a matching kind of thing with these different types of government. But please look at the examples as well. So it will be kind of a test on what kind of government does the United States have and so on. I will hopefully, with all the gods smiling down upon me, see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye-bye.